20-year-old Zvi Allswang is behind bars after allegedly holding a female mental therapist hostage at knife point for 15 hours. The events unfolded at just before 4 a.m. on the 2nd of July 2022, when the authorities responded to a welfare check request from the victim's mother and a daughter who had not returned home since attending a house for social work on the night of the 1st of July, located at 22,147 Larkspur Trail in Boca Raton, Florida. Deputies made several attempts to see if anyone was at the home, but there was no response, and they couldn't hear anything coming from inside the house, but a car was parked at the address. Finally, at around 7:30 a.m, officers knocked on the window from the patio and heard a woman screaming for help, and they forced entry into the home. Officers found the master bedroom was locked. Once deputies were able to enter the room, they found Zvi holding the victim hostage with a knife to her throat. He was ordered to drop the knife, but when he refused to comply, the officers shot Zvi in the head, setting the hostage free. The suspect survived and was taken to the Delray Medical Center for surgery. The woman that was held hostage was taken to the Wellington Regional Hospital for treatment. The victim told a detective in her role as a social worker that she had seen Zvi 4 or 5 times before her latest appointment. She said that she met him at the same house previously, but other people, including family members, were usually present. She told detectives that her role was to help Zvi function in society, such as getting a job and how to behave during a job interview. People that work with Zvi warned her that he was previously charged with sexual battery. She said that a meeting on the 1st of July went on as usual, but he left the meeting a couple of times. She later believed that's when he was covering the windows of the home. As the meeting was ending, she said he attempted to get her to stay longer and started asking her personal questions that made her feel uncomfortable. When she attempted to leave the home, she saw that a window of the front door was now covered with black material. She also saw that the window blinds were closed or covered up, which was also unusual. At the time, she said Zvi, who was 6'2" and weighed 200 pounds, grabbed her around the chest in a bear hug and told her that she could not leave. She said she attempted to get away, but him being substantially larger than her, he overpowered her and took her phone from her hand. She said that Zvi then put her phone into airplane mode and wrapped it in aluminium foil and duct tape to prevent communication. The suspect then bound her hands together behind her back with duct tape and dragged her to a couch in the living room. She said during the course of the night, she pleaded numerous times for him to let her go, but he refused. She told investigators that he beat her multiple times in multiple places on her body with his hands and knees. Detectives noted that she had visible bruising along with abrasions and cuts on her arms, wrists, face and neck. The victim also said he violated her body and raped her multiple times while she was held captive for more than 15 hours. She said she begged him to stop and let her go, but he continued to torture her. The victim said the behaviour would change from being calm to becoming angry and aroused. She said about 4 or 5 times he would strangle her from behind by placing his arm around her throat and placing her into a chokehold. She told detectives that he would also threatened to kill her several times throughout the night, dragging her around the house to different rooms. She said she heard deputies knocking on the outside of the home at around 4 a.m. She said when deputies knocked again on the house later that morning, that Zvi dragged her into a master closet, closed the door and placed a stool in front of the door. Although in the dark closet, she could hear what sounded like a saw and banging at the front door. She said that Zvi got turned on by the situation and wanted her to put on one of his mother's favourite dresses. As officers entered the room, she said that Zvi put a large kitchen knife to her throat and told her to be quiet or he will cut her. When deputies breached the closet, they demanded Zvi to drop the knife and let her go. When he refused to comply with their demands, she said she heard one loud gunshot and the knife was no longer being held to her throat. She then ran out of the closet and did not look back, she said. Investigators say that the incident was a premeditated attack. Zvi's father told the detectives that he and his wife were in New York, and Zvi's brother was away at camp. Zvi faces 1 count of attempted murder with a weapon, 4 counts of sexual battery with force, and 1 count of kidnapping. He's held at the Palm Beach County Jail without bail. 33-year-old Cameron Stewart is behind bars after being accused of shooting 87-year-old Charles Hacker in the neck with a bow and arrow. The incident occurred just before 10 a.m. on the 29th of June 2022, when officers responded to a property along Kawakawa Street in Pahoa, Hawaii, after receiving a report from a man saying he found his father-in-law slumped over his wheelchair, bleeding from the neck and mouth. When officers arrived at the address, they found an unconscious man in his driveway in his walker, bleeding profusely from a laceration-type injury to his neck. Deputies tried resuscitating the man and transported him to the Hilo Medical Centre, where he was pronounced dead. The authorities identified the victim as 87-year-old Charles Hacker. A forensic team responded to the scene to continue to assist in the investigation. While at the scene, the authorities received information identifying a suspect in the investigation. An autopsy on Charles was performed on the 1st of July 2022, where it was revealed that a sharp two-sided object struck Charles's neck, penetrating approximately 10.5 inches and hitting the right lung and rib cage. His death was ruled a homicide. During the course of the investigation, detectives executed a search warrant on Cameron's home and recovered a recurved bow, various arrows, one which had blood on it, and other archery-related items. It was also discovered that Cameron told his brother-in-law that he wasn't doing well and that he killed his neighbour after shooting him with a bow and arrow. Officials identified Cameron as a suspect, and he was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. The authorities said that Cameron and Charles lived in the same street, and Cameron recently moved to the island from Arizona with his family just a couple of weeks prior. The authorities say that Cameron admitted to killing Charles with a bow and arrow. Prior to the incident, police say a neighbour said Stewart approached her and asked if he could shoot cats with his bow and arrow. The motive of the attack is unclear. Cameron's held at the Hilo City Jail. He appeared at a bond hearing on the 5th of July, and he remains held on a $1 million bond. His next court appearance is on the 23rd of August. If convicted, Cameron faces life in prison without the possibility of parole. Charles's family is trying to come to terms with his death. Charles's brother Ron Wolf said, "I think he should have been able to live out his life, not just have it taken away from him." He described his brother as a loving and caring father and brother with an infectious personality. He was always fun and always had a smile. Everybody remembers that smile. It's a smile that will never be seen again, he said. 20-year-old Sarah Prestwood is behind bars after allegedly fatally running over a brother following an argument outside a convenience store. The incident occurred shortly after 6:30 p.m. when the authorities responded to the Loves Travel Plaza, located at 1760 South Fork Drive in Newton, North Carolina, on a report of a motor vehicle crash involving a pedestrian. First responders arrived at the scene and they found the victim, 30-year-old David Land, had been run over with a 2008 Ford Ranger pickup truck that was allegedly driven by his sister Sarah Prestwood. During the initial investigation, it was revealed that just prior to the victim being run over, their siblings were involved in a verbal altercation, which turned physical. David was transported to the Catawba Valley Medical Center, but died a short time later. Sarah was arrested and charged with her brother's murder. She's held at the Catawba County Detention Facility without bond.